Hello everyone. Today, we're going to talk about a true event that happened in a suburban trailer park in northern Illinois. It was in the early 2010s, and I was just a 4-year-old living in that trailer park, which was rife with eerie rumors. There was a saying that the entire park was built on an ancient cemetery, so strange noises, blurry figures, and all sorts of traditional paranormal phenomena were commonplace. These stories spread like wildfire, scaring us kids to death, especially me, a naturally timid and gullible little guy. It was a nightmare. That night, my dad was out carousing again, my mom and older sister were both at work, and my other sister and one of the twins had gone to a friend's house. So, it was just me and my twin sister, whom we'll call Doe for privacy. Doe and her friends were at our place, and their favorite thing to do was play pranks on me in any way possible. That day, Doe decided to go big. She put her phone on creepy music, turned off all the lights, and locked me in our shared bedroom. Yes, she actually did it. I, a terrified little toddler, cried and begged them to let me out, but they just laughed outside, completely ignoring my pleas. Nothing happened in the room except my desperate crying and that chilling music. Everything felt so prolonged. However, this calm didn't last long. About 5 minutes later, the music suddenly stopped. In that dead silence, I heard a creak in the room. My eyes had grown accustomed to the dark, and when I turned around, I saw our closet door slowly opening. This should have been impossible. These trailers were old, and that closet door was broken. No child, or even an adult for that matter, could open it. It took about 4 grown adults to even slightly move it. So no draft, even a storm, could move it. Not to mention the only window to our bedroom was shut firmly and locked. I also strictly remember begging my mom to close the closet earlier that day, as it had always given me a weird and wary feeling. My mom had closed it for me, and there was no way for my sister to open it, even with all her strength, and there was no one else in the room with me. It scared the shit out of me, and I started banging on the door and crying, begging my sister to let me out and that something or someone was in the room with me, moving the closet. Of course, she also knew that nobody could move that closet and scoffed at me, just thinking it was a way for me to try to get her to let me out of the room. Then, this monster fully emerged from the closet. It was ceiling high with large antlers. There was no real body form, though I could see its arms and legs, but the strangest part was that tree branches were sprouting everywhere on and off its body, completely covering it head to toe. There was no part that a branch wasn't coming out. And I could barely see 2 tiniest red dots where its face would probably be. When I saw it fully, my heart sank. I was petrified with fear to the point where I could barely move, but I mustered everything I could, panicking, trying everything I could to open the door. The more I tried, the more my sibling and their friends laughed at me. I kept going from looking at the door to looking at it. It didn't even walk and started to slowly come closer every time I looked my head away, until eventually the very last time I looked back at it, it was right up in my face. There I could finally see the 2 red dots more closely, and they seemed to be eyes. It was really a staring contest for a while. And I don't know how I knew this. I was not grown up religious, and at the time I didn't even know what a demon was, but I could feel immediately something demonic, and the fact that that came to my head made me more scared than ever. I then closed my eyes and braced myself, but suddenly I was being pulled back. I opened my eyes quickly and saw that it was my sister who had grabbed the back of my shirt and pulled me out of the room. It turns out that for a couple of minutes, I had gone from screaming and begging for my life to suddenly complete silence. My sister finally grew worried at the fact that I had gone completely quiet, and she had finally opened the door. I almost fell as she opened it since I was leaning so heavily on it, and she had grabbed my shirt to make sure I didn't fall back. My sister asked me what the hell happened, and I told her everything. She scoffed at me and had thought that maybe it was just my eyes playing tricks on me, or that the dark was just making shadows out of nowhere. However, when we turned on the light, our closet door looked to be completely shut. I had thought that maybe she was right, and that my mind was playing tricks on me, or that the dark was just making shadows out of nowhere, but then when we had further inspection, what we saw was the tiniest of tiny ajar to the closet. When both me and my sister remembered it being completely and firmly shut, I had told her that the closet being ajar was proof I wasn't lying, and even though she knew I was right and that she knew that this should also be completely impossible unless something had to open the door, she had completely shut down and refused to believe me, which of course cast doubt on myself and for the longest of time. Whenever anything paranormal happened to me, which was quite a few times, as a skeptic, I refused to believe it. Of course, that wasn't until many years later when I had told my mom this story. Her face had turned completely white with fear. When I had asked her what was wrong, my skin crawled and my heart sank. It turns out the exact creature I had saw to AT was the exact thing that the other twin, not Doe, complained to my mom that she saw outside her window and peeking at her every night through the closet. Now note that nobody had heard of the story in my family. Me and my sister had both promised to keep it a secret so that she wouldn't get in trouble, so nobody should have known that this had happened to me, and therefore there would have been no way they would make this up. In fact, my mom, this was the first ever time that I had told her the story. I told her that she was kidding me. And she said no, that my sister saw a tall figure with antlers and tree branches sticking out of it looking at her through her window and in the closet. It was so bad to the point where for a while, my sister stopped sleeping in our shared bedroom, and the moment that we left that trailer park, that we never saw whatever it was that was in the closet again. Still to this day, whenever I think about that story again, it gives me chills. And turned me from a skeptic to a believer 100%. But still, even though I have some questions answered and I know that it wasn't my imagination, I'm still left with some questions. What was that thing that me and my sister kept on seeing specifically in the closet? The feeling that it was demonic was undoubtedly real, but I still don't know what it was. Me and my mom would sometimes visit the trailer park as we had some friends there, and the yellow trailer that we lived in has remained abandoned. Was it that demon that stopped people from living there? Was that the reason why when I was there everyone avoided my trailer? And even though I'm like 95% sure it was a demon, I'm still wondering. I also have more paranormal experiences if anyone's ever interested in them, but just one last question was the first question I had asked, and that has stayed rent-free in my head for years. Just what was it that me and my sister saw in that closet?